Since our preliminary, Forever 11, we have made significant improvements in many ways, which we've then integrated into Exposure. Starting with the names of our films, we can already see an improvement, as Forever 11 didn't fit the storyline of our preliminary, whereas Exposure was designed after we made the narrative of our piece, and therefore was a lot more applicable to the storyline and the narrative. The opening scenes for both our preliminary and our final product were both very different. This is because for the preliminary, we didn't entirely stick to the correct conventions when displaying the titles, whereas for our final product, we did everything properly. We did this by using the correct technical names for each of our roles in comparison to the preliminary, where we simply only put our names. We used different camera techniques in our preliminary to our final product. Some of the techniques we used in the preliminary were the 180-degree wall, shot reverse shot, and a match on action. These we used and integrated very well. However, we built upon those, both using them and using other camera techniques in our final product, such as the focus pull. In each of our opening scenes, we also felt that the use of music in our final product gave a much more professional feeling in comparison to jumping straight in with the diegetic sound and the immediate attention of this person being taken through a hallway with their head with a bag on it. The narrative for our preliminary and our final piece are both very similar. However, we felt that our preliminary was fairly bland in terms of its narrative content, and so what we wanted to do with our final piece was expand and make it in a lot more depth, which is why we then included the press conference and brought in additional cast members to then lead into the interrogation scene, rather than follow our preliminary, which was just the interrogation scene. With the additional use of the flashback in time in our preliminary, which gave a snippet of what happened earlier to then lead into the interrogation scene, whereas we felt this didn't quite fit, so instead we modified it so that for our final piece it was a flash forward in time to show the outcome of what happened in the events that you had just seen in the press conference. This made the narrative for our final piece, Exposure, much easier to follow than our preliminary. We also used a different type of shot, point of view shot in our final product, which worked really well with the interrogation scene, looking from the perspective of Dom, the protagonist, up at the gun barrel of the antagonist. Additionally, we used the high angle and low angle shots just as we did in the preliminary, as we felt that they worked very well in portraying the different positions of each character. Overall, I feel that we learned a lot from the preliminary, which then gave us ideas to practice the focus pulls and to do other types of shots in the final product, which we are now very proud of.